welcome to week 5 of Becoming Sovereign. I am Metaphysical Ash, your go-to spiritual mentor and resource center. And this is week 5 of the Becoming Sovereign course, connecting the dots between science and spirituality. I am so excited to be offering this course and connecting with my soul family. Like, this is a very powerful information. So last week we chatted a little bit about accountability. We're going to go right in to our presentation. Hopefully, as the computer decides, oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Here we go. Present. Accountability. So we are not responsible for the programming we received as children, but we are responsible for the programming we consume as adults. So we're working with old pathways of behavior, establish neuroconnective links in the mind, which contribute to emotion in the body. So take a deep breath in. This course is interactive. We're connecting more deeply with ourselves and the innate intelligence that is available to us within the field. So taking a deep breath in, notice the body, really come into the now. And notice any sensations in the body. Now let's take that a little bit deeper. As you notice the sensation, like taking a deep breath in, if you feel inclined, close your eyes. Notice any sensations in the body. Now observe sensation. Can you separate your awareness from the sensation? So you are aware of it, but not falling into it. I've learned that this is a very powerful tool of transmutation. Those sensations in the body, where is that information stored? Where is that somatic instruction set holding in the physical form? And we're going to dive into somatics later. But for now, we're going to head over to YouTube and we're going to watch this little video. So this is on epigenetics.
Your audience is waiting online. Reach them fast. Call S. Here's a conundrum. Identical twins originate from the same DNA. So how can they turn out so different, even in traits that have a significant genetic component? For instance, why might one twin get heart disease at 55 while her sister runs marathons in perfect health? Nature versus nurture has a lot to do with it, but a deeper related answer can be found within something called epigenetics. That's the study of how DNA interacts with the multitude of smaller molecules found within cells, which can activate and deactivate genes. If you think of DNA as a recipe book, those molecules are largely what determine what gets cooked when. They aren't making any conscious choices themselves. Rather, their presence and concentration within cells makes the difference. So how does that work? Genes in DNA are expressed when they're read and transcribed into RNA, which is translated into proteins by structures called ribosomes. And proteins are much of what determines a cell's characteristics and function. Epigenetic changes can boost or interfere with the transcription of specific genes. The most common way interference happens is that DNA, or the proteins it's wrapped around, gets labeled with small chemical tags. The set of all of the chemical tags that are attached to the genome of a given cell is called the epigenome. Some of these, like a methyl group, inhibit gene expression by derailing the cellular transcription machinery or causing the DNA to coil more tightly, making it inaccessible. The gene is still there, but it's silent. Boosting transcription is essentially the opposite. Some chemical tags will unwind the DNA, making it easier to transcribe, which ramps up production of the associated protein. Epigenetic changes can survive cell division, which means that they could affect an organism for its entire life. Sometimes that's a good thing. Epigenetic changes are part of normal development. The cells in an embryo start with one master genome. As the cells divide, some genes are activated and others inhibited. Over time, through this epigenetic reprogramming, some cells develop into heart cells and others into liver cells. Each of the approximately 200 cell types in your body has essentially the same genome, but its own distinct epigenome. The epigenome also mediates a lifelong dialogue between genes and the environment. The chemical tags that turn genes on and off can be influenced by factors including diet, chemical exposure, and medication. The resulting epigenetic changes can eventually lead to disease if, for example, they turn off a gene that makes a tumor suppressing protein. Environmentally induced epigenetic changes are part of the reason why genetically identical twins can grow up to have very different lives. As twins get older, their epigenomes diverge, affecting the way they age and their susceptibility to disease. Even social experiences can cause epigenetic changes. In one famous experiment, when mother rats weren't attentive enough to their pups, genes in the babies that help them manage stress were methylated and turned off. And it might not stop with that generation. Most epigenetic marks are erased when egg and sperm cells are formed. But now, researchers think that some of those imprints survive, passing those epigenetic traits on to the next generation. Your mother's or your father's experiences as a child or choices as adults could actually shape your own epigenome. But even though epigenetic changes are sticky, they're not necessarily permanent. A balanced lifestyle that includes a healthy diet, exercise, and avoiding exposure to contaminants may, in the long run, create a healthy epigenome. It's an exciting time to be studying this. Scientists are just beginning to understand how epigenetics could explain mechanisms of human development and aging, as well as the origins of cancer, heart disease, mental illness, addiction, and many other conditions. Meanwhile, new genome editing techniques are making it much easier to identify which epigenetic changes really matter for health and disease. Once we understand how our epigenome influences us, we might be able to influence it too.
And I would say, yes, we will influence our epigenetics. So that instruction said, the information communicating with the cells to contribute to the expression of the genome or the DNA. The environments we put ourselves in, the music we listen to, the conversations we have, even the thoughts that we think. What dictates gene expression? Various factors, including genetic makeup, exposure to harmful substances, other environmental influences, and age can affect expressivity. Both penetrance and expressivity can vary. People with the gene may or may not have the trait, and in people with that trait and how the trait is expressed can vary. So what if we could shift and change the expression of our DNA? So this is what epigenetics is diving into. And that disease is dis-ease. So it's a lack of coherence within the physical body. At the end of this, we're going to dive into a deep meditation and create more coherence. And I'm going to teach you how to pinpoint any of those areas where there's disharmony. So accountability. You know, we are not responsible for what we received as children, or even what we've inherent into. Some would say, from a higher perspective, a deeper, like a more expanded awareness, perhaps we did choose that generational line to experience what we've experienced. But we have the opportunity to shift the expression. So take a look at this torus field, right? That is you. You are center. From center is a energetic field instruction set that contributes to how you position yourself in space and time. And it comes from expression of the DNA. So environmental factors, our upbringing, where we've positioned ourselves now as adults, the conversations we're having, the entertainment we listen to, the foods we eat, our personal choices impact the cellular somatics and gene expression. So from that center, which I like to call spine, like spine is center of your universal construct. From that center expands an instruction set of multiple torus fields vibrating at a certain frequency, creating shape and form, which contribute to your alignment. So where we position ourselves in space and time. Does anyone have anything they want to add or share in regards to this slide or the expression of DNA?
I have a quick question, Ash. My spine, and I know spine is center, and I've got a spinal cord injury, does like my spine curves and does different things? Does that affect all of the flow of my energy? And could that possibly inhibit me? I don't even know if you can answer the question. You know what I mean? But
so the physical form, does contribute to how the somatics organize around the energy body. So Kath, I'm going to say yes. And as we, let's open this dialogue. Let's connect with Kath. Let's connect with her body. Like as you become aware of your body, so like 360-degree awareness, you may have vulnerabilities in your energy field. So imbalances where it requires extra work, energy, or effort to keep balance in that place, in that space. Does that make sense?
yes. Yes. So, yeah. Plus, I think my imagination and visualization will help as well. So, yeah, it does. Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so those instruction sets, right? And only you knows the truth of the significance or the deeper meaning behind what you've gone through and what you're experiencing and what you're challenged to overcome in this life. But at some point, there was an instruction set that created experience that manifests, what happens to us in our life, whether it's, divine or distorted. What we're coming to find is that we are able to adjust our instruction sets and then pass that down to the next generation. So what we heal within ourselves, and it's at an energetic level, first and foremost, and then that energetic expression translates to physical form, whether this now moment, this generation, or future generations. Moving in a little deeper into accountability. On both sides, I have somatic instruction sets. So as you can see, this right here is your human being, your body. So when we have a clear flow of life force energy, our instruction sets are more coherent. And it's rare to have a clear flow. Many of us right now are going through purging and dismantling. So we are actually experiencing shifts in our somatic instruction sets, which will affect us physically and mentally. So the mental body crumbles and dissolves and dismantles. And this is where we experience a lot of, emotional challenge. Before we started the recording, I was sharing a little bit, about my personal life, how the mental body is dismantling. I cannot hold those thought forms I once carried because they are no longer supported. So how I used to, position myself within space and time, some of the instruction sets that I used to be working with are no longer here. And that's something we talked about at the beginning of this course, how we're receiving new frequencies as we move into this new evolutionary cycle, as humanity moves into this new cycle with new frequencies, new instruction sets. Those of us carrying connection and feedback loops to the old structures are experiencing a lot of challenge. Some would call it an ego death. So what you thought you were, you are not. You cannot be. It is not supported in the new paradigm. Does anyone have anything they want to add or any questions, any shares they want to contribute?
Okay. It's so funny you just said that, because this morning, I always call myself the girl in the wheelchair, or, I use the word crippled or different things. And this morning I stopped myself, you know what I mean? And I claimed taking my power back. And the more I say I'm not something, or I'm feeling that in so many ways. And I think about these teachings, especially with my body, I've got a unique case, but yeah, I feel like I'm in a video game now, and I just have to choose the right things and choose the right words to heal all of me. And yeah, just changing that one little thing makes such a big difference.
I love that ad, Kath. That is so true, because like the somatics, like when we look up these structures, these somatics, this is waveform instruction, which is within all of us. Our body is made of mostly water. So that thought makes its way into the body and creates an instruction set also. That was a really, really wonderful share. Now I have another video I'm going to share before we enter into a deep dive, which I'm so excited to do with you guys, because we are going to really pull in some strong frequencies and create more harmony in the body. But this video, extremely powerful. I'm really looking forward to watching this and then to talking a little bit about it afterwards. Because there's a lot, going on in the world right now that we're not really aware of.
Working 50 hours
a lot of things have been
I knew that I wanted more.
hidden and kept from humanity, to keep
Nicholas
us trapped.
knew that the Earth rings like a bell.
We now know
So take a look at this
cancer
video.
is vulnerable between the frequencies of 100,000
Let's really take
hertz
this information.
and 300,000 hertz.
The guys that created the religious symbols know all this stuff. These guys knew all this stuff. We live in an electromagnetic universe. This is what we are told, where everything spins and vibrates. And the electromagnetic universe is actually a subtle deception. You'll understand as we go why I say this. It's a very subtle deception, a very important subtle deception, because it's not the electromagnetic universe that we live in. It's the magneto-electric universe that we live in. And just twisting those two around would have given us a very different perception while we grow up about the world that we live in and the universe and this reality of us. If we don't think of it as the electromagnetic, but the magneto-electric, huge consciousness shift in growing up with that kind of thinking. Everything has its own specific frequency, as we mentioned before. Prime resonance frequency. Everything vibrates at its own frequency. That's how we can manipulate things with frequency and sound and resonance. All comes to the same thing when you start breaking it down. Sound and resonance are also the common links of all creation. In Christianity, we have the word, we have the in Hinduism, the Egyptians that sang the universe into creation. And my favorite, the Aboriginals that believe the world was sung into creation with 3 sacred songs, or brought into creation with 3 sacred songs, which is the equivalent to the Holy Trinity. We start seeing the whole important structure of music and resonance and the.
So I just wanted to kind of pause because I wanted to mention that Holy Trinity. So the 3 founder sound frequencies, and we can work with this. We can actually connect with universal coherence and harmony through the sound of Om. And there's clues in a lot of biblical texts. So I challenge you, I request that you take a moment, take a deep breath, and connect with the frequency of Om so that you can feel coherence in the body. So you take a deep breath in, you open your mouth, and you allow for Om. You may close your mouth at the end. So the Om is our body's way of developing and connecting with coherence of the field. And we can work with different light spectrums and sounds to create more coherence in the body. Now, thought also creates sound wave, which contributes to, how the body renders itself. But I wanted to add that in. So as we continue watching this amazing educational video, feel free to do some Oms and to connect with your body. And as you allow that Om, where do you feel resistance? Where do you feel distortion in the form?
And chord structures, harmonic resonance in music. We get the 6 days of creation very obviously become visible in sacred geometry, and the 6 aspects of Om show us cymatic patterns, and the 6 aspects of the all-seeing eye of Horus show us 6 very obvious resonating ratios that tell us that all these ancient cultures understood sound, resonance, and frequency, and it's encoded in all the things that they did. Sound is the source of all creation, and it's all about coherence and harmonic resonance, even in our bodies. If the cells of our body are not in coherent harmonic resonance, our cells are in dis-ease, in disease, and that's why we get sick. And if we're not resonating with the earth frequencies, the natural earth frequencies of Gaia, we are in dis-ease with the Mother Earth that we live on and walk on, and that's why we get sick. Hans Jenny's beautiful documentary called Cymatics in the 60s will show you exactly how sound is pretty much behind everything in creation. We've already looked at sound manifesting in physical form. This is the quickest and easiest way for us to comprehend, once again, how this untouchable, invisible thing called sound can manifest in physical form. That little thing on the metal plate, with the sand on the metal plate on that video. That's just probably the quickest way for us to say, okay, sound can manifest physical shapes. And sound also inspired religious symbols, because the guys that created the religious symbols know all this stuff. These guys knew all this stuff, and they know they all connected to the ancient bloodlines. Some of these beautiful images of the cymatic patterns, when you drill into it, you get that perfect cross inner circle of the source of the sound. And that's it. The source of the sound is this beautiful cross inner circle, and this is why most of the religious movements have the cross in a circle as their symbol, recognizing that the source of everything in creation is sound, the sound of the creator. And sound and resonance that does everything you can imagine, right? Creates light, levitates, boils water, creates DNA. Sound heals and destroys pathogens, moves beyond the speed of light. And we have hypersound and laser and Saser technology, not laser, sound lasers, Saser. Sound makes things invisible, energizes the water we drink. So the water actually heals us, and it also energizes the air that we breathe so that we can actually survive from the air that we breathe. Otherwise, we would not survive from the air that we breathe if it wasn't for sound. And very importantly, sound is the precursor to electromagnetism, not the other way around. Sound causes electromagnetism. This is a big one for us to come to terms with. Ancient civilizations understood all this, and they used sound and frequency as a source of energy in every possible way. They used sound and frequency to control humanity, and it seems that they were focusing for some reason on our pineal gland. They had to destroy our pineal gland, and the more you study this, the more you realize why that was critical, because it seems that our pineal gland was that third eye that so many of us are aware of, or we keep calling it our third eye, that connected us to everything in creation and allowed us to pick up the frequencies and the invisible, untouchable, unfathomable stuff through the third eye and actually be able to communicate telepathically with everything and everyone, and interact not only with other beings, but with other entities and beings and animals and trees and rocks because of our third eye. That thing there is the magic part of our body and our anatomy that's been completely destroyed. And it seems from all these images, they took a lot of time and effort to destroy our pineal gland. And they continue to do so today, as you are aware of. And they used cone-shaped tools to do this. This is a key thing here. You can clearly see the cone-shaped tools, and this is a repetitive theme all the time, and the pineal gland, and also, by the look of it, the DNA that is obviously the codes that creates the pineal gland in our anatomy eventually. And sound and frequency. Notice the magnetic wrist watch here. And I'm giving the game away here because I'm telling you what that is. There is a cone. This guy's holding a cone in his hand, very important cone-shaped tool that he's doing some function with. And there's another cone here on his arm. At first you think, oh, it's just an interpretation of the guy's muscle. No, it's a cone. It's a perfect cone that feeds into this magnetic wrist watch. And you'll know why that's a magnetic wristwatch very soon. And the same kind of control through using frequency and sound and magnetism, electromagnetism that was used in ancient times, the all-seeing eye of Horus, that's still being used by the broadcast company.
Okay, I want to interject. Symbolism. That symbolism right there creates code. And then our human body hologram takes that in. So they're using symbolism to create code, which on a very deep metaphysical occult level creates doorway or gateway and is siphoning of soul spirit. So this is very much, of course, where we're connecting spirituality and science. Here's the spirituality, here's the deep metaphysics. These symbolisms create opening and gateway, and not only take our energy out of our being, so it's a siphoning of life force, but also implant programming and belief into our being. So the more we know ourselves, the easier it is to really remove and dissolve distortions that have been put into our human body hologram by external influence. And we're going to continue. Thank you for watching.
Today, it's encoded in their logos. It's everywhere around us, but we're just too blind to see it. Sound as a tool and technology, very important. Sound creates light. Even this, you add attach a LED light to a speaker, and you put a speaker in a noisy place, you light the little LED up. That's spectacular. So it works both ways, light and sound. Every sound frequency has a light frequency, and every light frequency has a sound frequency attached to it. Corey Good, in a recent interview, said that he was in some giant underground cavern somewhere, and there was this invisible source of light. And when he asked, where does the light come from? He was told the light was coming from the sound. The light was being created by the sound. In Egypt, the ankh was used for healing. That's just a resonating device, sound frequency resonating for healing. The Native American medicine wheel is clearly just a cross in a circle as a source of all things, so from sound to heal people. Royal Rife, the man who cured all disease in 1931, they did that with sound and resonance and frequency, spectacular achievement in curing cancer in the wards. This is his handwritten book that I had the privilege of seeing. It's in a private library in Sedona, Arizona. There's about 700 pages in there, I think, and they are page after page with his own handwritten frequencies for all the different diseases. One of my biggest, most exciting obsessions at the moment. If there are people in this room that can do this, please go away and do this. You know that honey lasts forever. It doesn't go off. It's not affected by viruses, bacteria, pathogens. It's one of those miraculous things. Apparently, the reason that honey does that is because of the frequencies of the bees' wings when they're building their honeycombs and when they're creating and bringing in the honey. So it's a frequency of the bee's wings that creates the hexagonal structure of honeycombs. It's also interesting is that the hexagonal structure is a structure of oxygenated and structured water that cures disease. This is really important. If any one of you can go and record the frequency of bees in a beehive, the buzzing of the bee's wings, and you take that frequency to a lab, a biochemistry lab, and you expose a petri dish of viruses, bacteria, and fungi.
The best morning routine for manifesting more money.
We will
is
skip this
an
commercial.
alpha meditative.
And
continue
fungus to
to
the
dive
frequency of
in.
the bee's wings, I suspect that frequency will kill the bacteria. George Lakhovsky's multiple wave oscillator is a spectacular device with which he cured his father. Listen carefully. He cured his father of quadriplegia. You don't cure people of quadriplegia, right? His father was admitted with quadriplegia into the hospital in the USA. 6 weeks later, he walked out on crutches. The way he treated him is every day he walked in there with a little small handheld portable multiple wave oscillator from George Lakhovsky and treated him for about 45 minutes up and down his spine, after which he exposed him to color light therapy for another hour. Did this for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. His father walked out on crutches. I saw the hospital report. It says, Mr. So-and-so exhibited a remarkable recovery. That's it. It's spectacular. They just won't go there. They will not be, engaged in any explanation. In 2011, Anthony Holland, this is now in a TED talk, show us which frequencies kill cancer cells. Very briefly. Okay, he tells us between 100,000 hertz and 300,000 hertz kills cancer cells. And he shows us in a TED talk.
We now know that cancer is vulnerable between the frequencies of 100,000 hertz and 300,000 hertz. So now we attack leukemia cells. Leukemia cell number 1 tries to grow a copy of itself, but the new cell is shattered into dozens of fragments and scattered across the slide. Leukemia cell number 2 then hyperinflates and also dies. Leukemia cell number 3 then tries to make another cancer cell. The new cell is shattered and the original cell dies.
Magnetrons obviously generate huge amounts of energy, and that's just sound. It's a resonant cavity magnetron. Resonant cavity magnetron that's used in laser beams, laser technology, microwaves, all use magnetrons for that technology. Sound acts as a cloak of invisibility. There's so much new information about this. This opens a whole new chapter and debate. There's very advanced new sound cloaking technology right now available. This plastic 3D acoustic pyramid acts as a acoustic cloak, make things invisible when you put it underneath it, when you expose that pyramid to specific sound frequencies. And that pyramid is reminiscent of what? Is reminiscent very strongly of Eastern architecture. Sound creates hurricanes. In 2003, these guys lodged a patent to create hurricanes with sound. And then here's another one. Sound creates supercluster galaxies. When I said earlier, the lower the frequency, the larger the cymatic shape. Now you've got a frequency that's 57 octaves lower than middle C, rumbling away from a supermassive black hole in the Perseus cluster in the key of B flat, creating a supercluster galaxy. And it's amazing. This is apparently an image of it. I like the one on the left because when you watch Hans Jenny's cymatics documentary, that looks identical to the images of lycopodium powder on a metal plate with sound frequencies on it. This is like lycopodium powder that's creating supercluster galaxies. This is insane. So you start to get into the idea of as above, so below. There's no end. This is what really disturbs me. The fact that we could put out fire with sound, and yet this has not been employed or used anyway. Why? Because it's not good for business. Remember, the moment we stop the growth and the need for money, the entire global financial system collapses. This is just spectacular. These kids developed this little resonator that puts out a fire. 5 seconds. Count it from the moment they put it down to the frying pan to when the fire is out. 5 seconds. Imagine the fire trucks arriving at a building, burning building. The ladders go up, and instead of fire hoses, a bunch of speakers get switched on and put out this frequency. That fire in the building will be out in literally a few seconds or a minute. The entire fire, everywhere, because it'll resonate right through the building. But that's not going to happen, because that's going to save a lot of money.
It is not the messenger that is important, it is the message.
So there are
Swarm robotics with attached to a drone.
numerous
Applied to
technologies.
forest fires or building fires where you would want to
5
sacrifice.
seconds.
Look at that.
Sound energizes the air we breathe.
That are
And
being
this
hidden.
is how we actually oxygenate our bodies and our lungs, and through our lungs, the blood in our veins and our arteries, rather. Because as you breathe, the air that you breathe makes a bloody noise, and it goes into your lungs, and it goes into the smaller and smaller orifices as it moves into your lungs. So it speeds up and speeds up and speeds up, and it goes higher and higher and creates these frequencies. And it's the energy and the sound of the air that you breathe that actually energizes the oxygen in the air. So the oxygen is buzzing as it's moving faster and faster. By the time it reaches your alveoli, and it goes from the alveoli into your artery, from the lungs into the arteries, that oxygen in the air is buzzing and energized from the sound. And that's when it goes into your blood, and it's used in the blood, and it's stripped of the vibrating energy. And when it's stripped of the vibrating energy, you breathe it out again. And it just repeats that cycle. And that's how we energize the oxygen that we breathe. That don't teach you this at medical school. In 2011, Luc Montagnier spontaneously generated DNA by exposing a tube of water to certain sound frequencies that had the frequencies of a DNA in it, and constituted DNA in an empty test tube. If you can create DNA in an empty test tube with sound, now you start understanding how we can start cloning other species and other creatures just by sound and vibration. And then obviously sonoluminescence, the star in a jar. God said, let there be light. Bubble with brilliant light inside a body of water. Is it possible that all the star systems that we see out there are actually just giant bubbles of light in a never-ending mass of water? I don't know.
All right, family. So lots of information on that. I found that to be very, very activating. And we are going to be working with our own sound. So I want to have you take a deep breath.